On the surface, Chris Watts was the perfect husband, a doting father of 2 little girls, and a man expecting a 3rd child with his loving wife, Shanann. But behind closed doors, a double life was growing, and on one August morning in 2018, everything unraveled into a tragedy that stunned the world. Chris and Shanann Watts lived in Frederick, Colorado, a quiet town, the kind of place where tragedy feels impossible. Neighbors knew them as friendly, ordinary. Their daughters, Bella and Celeste, filled their home with laughter. Shanann was expecting a baby boy, Nico. Online, Shanann's social media showed family vacations, smiling children, affectionate posts about her husband. It looked like the American dream. But behind Shanann's optimistic posts, things weren't perfect. Chris had grown distant. He no longer touched her, no longer looked at her the same way. While Shanann hoped a new baby would bring them closer, Chris was already gone in his heart. He was living a double life with another woman. Her name was Nicole Kessinger, a co-worker Chris met at Anadarko Petroleum. To Nicole, Chris pretended he was a man trapped in a loveless marriage, preparing to divorce. He told her he had no children. In truth, his daughters adored him. Shanann still loved him, but Chris began to dream of freedom, a life with Nicole, and that dream became deadly. August 13, 2018, Shanann returned from a business trip around 2 a.m. by morning. She and her children would be gone. Prosecutors later reconstructed the horror. Chris confronted Shanann about ending the marriage. She argued, she pleaded, but Chris wanted a new life. He strangled her in their bed while she carried their unborn child. When Bella and Celeste woke up, they didn't yet know their fates. Chris drove Shanann's body and his daughters to a remote oil field owned by his company. There, he smothered his little girls, one by one, and hid all 3 bodies of family erased in the name of desire. By midday, Shanann's friend Nicole Atkinson reported her missing. Shanann never missed doctor's appointments, never went silent. Police quickly noticed odd details. Shanann's car was still in the garage, her purse and phone inside, the children's blankets left behind, and Chris. He was oddly calm. He gave interviews to local TV, pleading for his family's return, but his words felt rehearsed, his eyes empty. Investigators grew suspicious. Chris agreed to take a polygraph test. The examiner leaned in, telling him, "There's only one way to pass, and that's to tell the truth." He failed spectacularly. Faced with mounting evidence, Chris cracked, but his first confession was another lie, claiming Shanann had killed the children, and he killed her in a rage. It was an attempt to shift blame, even in death, but the truth would soon come out. Finally, Chris admitted what he had done. He killed Shanann, then took Bella and Celeste alive to the oil site, where he murdered them too. Investigators were horrified at his coldness. His motive? To erase his family for a new life with his mistress. Love turned lethal. Desire turned into death. The case never reached trial. Chris Watts pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. In November 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. As Shanann's family read impact statements, the courtroom wept. But Chris showed little emotion. Today, he serves his sentence in Wisconsin, isolated, haunted by the crimes he cannot undo. Psychologists studying Chris Watts describe him as a man with extreme narcissism, incapable of empathy. He maintained a mask of normalcy, a quiet, polite family man. But underneath was emptiness. Chris desired control, admiration, and freedom at any cost. His case illustrates the terrifying truth. Sometimes the most ordinary faces hide the darkest hearts. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, Nico, for lives stolen by a man who chose desire over duty, betrayal over love. This was not just the story of a family's murder. It was the story of a man who lived a lie until it consumed everything, and now, his name is forever whispered in darkness.